Crowdfunding roundup. Let's do this. It's Chris. What do I got going on this week? Wow, just played a couple new games and got a couple more to play over the weekend. But aside from sparkling water sitting next to me, watermelon lime, in case you were wondering, crowdfunding. We're here. Let's go. Let's talk about it. So we're talking about first Dune War for Arrakis. I almost said dessert the first take that I did this, but it's Desert War, the expansion. And again, frankly speaking, pre-order 8,400 people, including myself, following it, trying to decide if they're just trying to make us FOMO again. Now, got raked in the comment section. People are like, well, you need to pay a fee, essentially was the comment in the comment section here at the beginning of this rant, that you need to pay this fee. You should not be unhappy that CMON, the corporate bootlicking apparently, you should not be unhappy that CMON is charging a fee, a $30 increase for the Kickstarter exclusive version of things, right? Was what I was told in the comment section. They're like, well, how many crowdfunding projects have you backed? I'm like, I've backed probably more than you, and I guarantee I've looked at and covered a ton more than you've ever seen ever. But I didn't retort that. I just said, shake your head at the toxic comment section. But what the issue is with this one is, right? Again, I'm to be clear, I said I wasn't surprised, but they were saying it's a mandatory thing. They have to increase the price. And I'm like, no, a lot of projects don't always just this drastic increase in price. Some do, some don't. But again, you can't have a voice of reason actually in a conversation. But again, apparently we need to defend the companies themselves. Anyway, where I'm going with this one though, with the expansion here, you can actually see, and this maybe is the main key point here that I'm going to go with, right? This is my order up here in the upper right hand corner. The War expansion, the exclusive edition, and the playmat. I mean, right? Like I'm big playmat if I'm going to do it. But I mean, that's costing you $230, which again, all things considered, not horrible considering how the scalping on the secondary market has happened. So the issue though is, and this is the part that I'm going to get really mad about here in a second. I don't care about the exclusive 3D camps and the plastic tokens and the fact that you're including them to make it feel like you need to get it now, which basically just means you don't need to get it now. And, the exclusive bundle here, they say, okay, all of this stuff would be, right, because you can split out the stretch goals. And as you can see in my pledge, right, you can get it on $140, that's not a bad price overall, and you're getting all of this stuff, and I think that's fantastic. And you get just a little bit more stuff there, and they finally actually give you what the Desert War action is, so that's kind of what you're getting. Rocket launchers, Freeman caps, special attacks, or empty dice slots and taking your actions or moving around to scout. And they give you a little bit more detail here. I don't actually think all of this was on the page at launch, so I think they've updated that just a tad since I looked at it at the beginning of the week. But here's where I'm going with this, right? For as much as my bundle is with the new stuff, as well as just the playmat in this, they'll give you all of the previous gameplay content here for $10 less. Okay. I don't want that. Again, getting what I want, not getting what I won't want. And you're going, Chris, why aren't you getting the cheaper thing? Chris, why aren't you getting the cheaper thing? Because, folks, all I want is the base game. All I want is the base game. All I want is the base game with the exclusives. And the problem is you cannot get that. It's an add-on. You can't $1 an add-on. You can't anything an add-on in that nature. You have to buy one of these two pledges to get the exclusive edition. You have to buy one of these two pledges to get any add-on, including if you bought it at retail and you just want this. They're going to make you buy the expansion to get the extras. I mean, that's kind of the middle finger to a lot of people, right? If you supported them at retail right now, you have to get $100 worth of game to get the extras that you're missing, right? And that, my friends, is too big a fee in that sense. I don't care if it's just let me buy it for $140. Why not? Why not? And again, the plastic tokens here, the only reason you're getting plastic tokens in this one, right? The only reason you're getting this is to make people feel like they have to be completionist and they have to get it, all of this too. That's unnecessary. I thought I heard someone, I'm not quoting this one because I don't know if this is actually right, and I'm not just spend the time, wasted looking it up, but they said that maybe there's not going to be the cardboard tokens in the desert expansion. So you're going to have cardboard in the original and you're going to have plastic in the other, and they're just not going to match. That's just done to irritate rather than to make it actually anything sort of friendly. And so part of me right now just wants to say, screw it, middle finger, peace out, I'm not buying anything. Right? That's how this makes me feel. Because I don't need this game. I don't whatsoever. Everybody loves it, right? How long is it going to go? Well, they said vaguely like a month or two in the comment section. And it's probably going to have an overlap with when DC United launches in July, because in case you missed it, CMON's doing monthlies now. So take that for what you will. Side note here, though, because pre-orders aside here, I still haven't seen any great details. And I went to projects here because, again, you can't find anything on the front page of Gamefound. Again, I'll throw that in there every time. But the issue I have is, right, I started sort by newest projects, right? So you've got The Last Zombie here. You've got this role-playing game that somehow is not launched, but then more recent than, some of this other stuff. And again, like, did you see which one of these is not like the other? Store. Okay. Interestingly enough, like, I just sorted by newest, right? And you don't see War for Arrakis on there. It's just weird, right? Because it launched after Grim Coven. So why does that not show up here? Again, it just shows I have no clue what goes on in this UI, this AI, this AW system that they've got going on, or GF, I guess, maybe. It's actually GF, because remember, they're separated. They're separated, so I don't have a freaking clue. But it makes it just so hard to figure out anything, especially if you're just browsing. Rant over, but we got to go over here. Speaking of stores that are adjacent, right? This is from Wormwood, and that's why I'm talking about it. A solid gold die. This is just ugly. They're finally getting in, it seems like, to the, bling bling of the D20 sets and the dice sets for role-playing games. It's fine. No problem with that whatsoever. Let's go down here to the bottom, though, and the issue I have. The gyroids, again, don't care. They're doing like a gyroid one. The metal ones which look atrocious. Watermelon D20. I mean, just look at, you can barely see kind of what's going on that side, right? I'm sure it's better in person, but the expense of this right there, folks, that's what we're talking about here a second. So, right, you have money to spend. We'll just say that. I'm leaving it there. Next up, Trekking the World, 2nd edition. And again, this one's a little bit of a mixed bag too, because this is a 2nd edition that they say with a bucket list expansion is just going to give you a completely different gameplay experience compared to the 1st edition. And the most surprising thing about this is, and this is not me quoting it actually, and we'll scroll down here to the bottom and you'll understand here why in a second. Major redesign, right? This is it, right? 130,000 copies of this game in 4 years. I mean, that has to be really good. Underdog, yeah, speaking of that. But what's new in this edition? And it has more of a drafting set collection versus sort of a race, I believe is how they described it previously. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be slowly maneuvering around this map in order to do one of your 3 things over here on the left side of the board. Essentially what you've got is you've got this agenda itinerary cards in this first most close to the map there, and it basically tells you how far you can move and how much money you get, and then based on that you move around the map, and then if you end up in a certain amount of place, then you get a bonus. Then if you match one of the ones that's in the middle row here, you can grab that. It's going to give you a one-time asymmetric bonus that you can, well, combo into your play, your action. Or if you're along the left side here, you can buy one of the locations for the price listed. 48 renditions, and you're going basically kind of a century golem-esque, where you need to have a certain number of these places bought before the end of the game, and you can see that the lower right-hand corner is how many victory points they have. And how many you're going to have to buy is dependent on the player count, and that is the game rinse and repeat. You can see down here what said the power may look like at the game end. Copy the effect of one of your ungame powers. And so, I mean, most of them are in the game as well, but this is what you're going to be doing, right? If you're in like the color continent that matches, I think is what it is, then you can get like the power, and so you can have some adaptability there. The rule book here is right here, and they say streamlined it, right? 1,000 words less. I don't know how much less that is. It's kind of weird too. I'll be honest, I like Underdog games, but I mean, half the quotes on this page are from advisors for them. So I'm assuming people getting paid, right? Either way, Either way, I mean, it seems like just a solid family weight style game, and 130,000 copies. I mean, if you talk to any publisher right now and said, the next 4 years, when the next game you put out is going to sell 130,000 copies, I'm pretty sure almost any publisher that you talk to would take that, right? You go, you move, you get your money, and that's the bonus on the bottom of that card, right? If you're in the continent that you're moving to. Gaining the money as you're getting it, giving your souvenirs if you're in the same area, that's the bonus that I was just alluding to that screwed up. Then choosing one of the two options, either gathering based on where you're at or buying. So a couple preview videos is all you're going to get though. But honestly, you don't even need the preview videos. This is either going to be too light for you or you're going to have interest in it. There's going to be a solo mode to go along with it with a couple difficulty levels. And again, third-party previews. So that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Characters with asymmetric powers is going to be an addition of the expansion there, with also a bucket list to go along, and you're gradually just trying to get all of these filled out throughout the game before the game ends if you end up in the right place. So that's it. It's not going to be anything super, complicated. It is what it is. $40 is probably, well, $50. $50 is pushed when you talk about shipping on top of that. So that'd be the only issue that I'd say. I mean, it's going to be push. And do you want to support the indie crowdfunding on, well, crowdfunding? There you go. Dragging the world. Next up, Ada's Dream. Heavy, medium weight Euro dice rondel. Surprisingly, $85,000. If you had told me that this wasn't the highest funder of the week, I would be actually relatively surprised. Although I'm wondering what the Dune War for Arrakis funding is at this point, because I hate that pre-order non-transparency BS that they're going with. So, Ada's Dream from Alley Cat Games here. Really what you're getting is deluxeifications more than anything else. And one of the big selling points on the page is this is our biggest board ever. Like, not quite my biggest selling point, because you've got this central roundel where you're essentially going to be maneuvering dice around. And what you do on a turn-by-turn basis is you have like one of two main separate things that you're going to be potentially doing. But the main dice roundel aspect is you take a die, you move it to the next space, I think clockwise, and then you bump out a lower die in that location that is lower. Well, because then that lower die becomes into your tableau and becomes usable for the main other part, which is the four surrounding boards here, because then it's going to be affected by what color that die is. You cannot move a die, though, if it cannot bump out a different one. You have coal that is going to allow you to adaptably change the dice in the first place, either by a value of 1 or by an extra space, so moving it 2 spaces instead of 1. And then you get into the crux of this game, where you have 4 massively different action spaces based on the colors around that rondel in the first place. The 4 action areas that I mentioned, though, and they're significant. And when I said that this rulebook is only 11 pages, it is a dense 11 pages. Like, it is solid top to bottom text. And so that's what you need to know. Partnerships, historical characters, upgrading your actions, getting more research, everything that you may need to know, right? I wasn't kidding about that, right? Our biggest board ever. So apart from that, I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. You're going to get an expansion, you're going to get deluxeifications, and to be honest, it's less pricey than a lot of the other deluxeified Euros on crowdfunding. 69 and 99 with the coins and mat. Yeah, I mean, it's less overall. Does that make it better? I have no idea. This is way too heavy for me. I just played Distilled yesterday, so that's about as heavy as I go. Take that for what you will. And it just gives you the briefest of overviews right here, because what you're doing is you're creating these combos based on the triggering that happens after the die, and then obviously the actions that you're taking going around to these 4 different places that I alluded to. Obviously you have a solo mode, obviously you get a slight exclusive, and you get a couple preview videos as well there, because let's be clear, that they're all previews. So rules, they say, you know what, we're trying to be accurate, but we're also just trying to throw some people in there too that are around that time, even though they may not have actually interacted. So take that for what you will. Shipping is going to be, well, shipping, whatever it may be, custom friendly. Want to buy 6 of them, you'll get a slight discount. That's all I got. Ada's Dream. Go check it out. Give it a look-see. Read the rule book and let me know how you feel about it and whether or not it's different enough to occupy your heavy Euro loving. Sovereign, Fall of Wormwood. Again, $68,000. If you had told me this was gonna almost compete with Ada's Dream, I would have been shocked, but it's actually killing it. I put out a video last week on this, covering this, everything that you need to know. And I would argue the biggest point there, I would play this with 2 players. I'm not a big 4-player person situation with this, even with the 3 players or going like King of the Hill style. Like, I don't do Dice Throne much that way. Like, you can do it, but like, if you're playing Dice Throne for serious, right? I got my Bluey shirt on. For serious, difficult, what you're doing there is mostly head-to-head. And this is sort of a different style of the lane battler, because I was just literally playing Sky Tier Horde Monoliths right before filming this video. It plays great at 2. You know, I really prefer these games at 2, even though they say 3 and 4. You have these massive replayability with all of the decks that you were given, where you have 30 unique cards that are going to be basically going back and forth, either defending your Citadel or your Forge. And your Forge is where you're basically building cards, or you're trying to, you know, build these echoes, which are your point cards. And if someone attacks either one of those, they have a significant benefit of when they succeed. The echoes are, well, the victory points, like I just said, and they can be stolen by your opponent. And so if they attack one that's being built, they just get to randomly grab one and see. And if it's Echo, they steal it. If it's not, well, they know what you're building. And then on the other side of things, they get the chance to take a look at your hand. And if you didn't put them down in the building to the Forge style of things, they might get lucky and grab one from your hand and steal it and put it in their victory point pile without having to build it in the first place, or just cause you to discard a card. The biggest, most divisive element of this is, though, the battling, because you have like this lane battling that just kind of goes like 2 ways, like trains meeting, and you just kind of go, okay, did I kill you? No. Keep moving. Did I kill you? Nope. Did I breach your defenses? Yes. Okay, get the, you know, overkill or whatever it may be from that aspect of things. The actual gameplay is relatively simple. The straightforward strategy is, well, not actually that straightforward, because how you're bluffing, how you're utilizing this when you're doing certain things is going to either behoove you or not. Rulebook is there, how to play. This is actually absolutely fantastic how to play. So I learned it actually from this video. So take that for what you will. Art's fantastic too, but it's whether or not this is going to occupy a niche for you in the first place. I don't know what else is on this page. I didn't actually look at this. Exiles of Eden expansion. So what is that giving you? 4 new factions. Okay. I mean, I think you're fine with the base game. It's just whether or not those expansions are going to be easy to get, because, well, actually, you know what? I probably had them all then, because I probably had 10 or 12 sitting in front of me. That's a lot of content there. Echoes, dice, playmats. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's where I'd wonder. It reminds me a little bit of a Summoner Wars in the sense it's slightly higher priced for 6 decks, but that's what you're getting. And so you're at least getting a couple from that aspect. Do you need the expansions? No. You should really be looking at just the base game as a whole if you have any interest in finding out whether or not this is for you. Tons of content on here. Gives you a whole bunch of lore. Faction differences, everything else that you need to know. Stretch goals. Are there stretch goals? Oh yeah, a little bit of deluxeifications there. Playthrough videos, a bunch of other videos. Hey, there's me. And final thoughts from everybody else that's more important than me, and you can check out their opinions, because don't listen to me whatsoever. So there you go. It's going to be a little more expensive. Again, we got indie game, back it or not. But either way, I mean, it's doing really well for first time. So 70,000, check it out. Now we're going to talk about this because it's got $40,000. But did you ever want to pay $140 or $150 for Battleship? Because that's what this is. It's electronic Battleship. It's Battleship with lights. It's Battleship with electronics. It's Battleship with Battleship, right? That's all it has, is lights and sounds and a dashboard, and you can fold it up and bring it places. So if you want to pay $140 before shipping for this, sometime maybe if you're lucky before the end of the year, right? Ooh, look at that. Blue when it misses, red when it's fully destroyed, and yellow when it's shot. Ooh, sound effects. Anyway, I'm leaving it at that. If you like Battleship and you want to bling Battleship out, somehow they are making it into a thing on crowdfunding. So take that for what you will. Then we're talking Phantom Ink, which apparently was Ghost Typewriter before this. They changed the licensing name like after the crowdfunding campaign finished the first time. Standalone party game expansion, if you will. Almost $9,000. Essentially, it's sort of code names a little bit twisted up. Basically, what you do is you take a secret object and you each have like a spirit or a person on each team, and they know what it is, and then your team gets to ask you questions, cards pulled from the box, and only your team sees what the questions are, but eventually both teams will see the answers. And what you do is you tell your team basically, or your spirit, to stop writing whenever you think you know what the answer to it is in terms of the clue given, because then the other team will be able to see whatever is written in terms of the answer from the spirit person, but they won't know the question that was asked. And so what you're trying to do is be the first team to deduce what is, well, actually going on. So do you want Phantom Ink bundles? You can get both of them for $50. It's just more stuff. By the way, TikTok, like, do people watch TikTok? Do people do that? Like, I see tons of views on TikToks and tons of followers on TikToks, but does that really actually meaningfully give weight on the board game scene of things? Like, you know, like people always talk about like the shut up and sit down effect, right? And there's a video down here from them, right? About how when they watch that, like people go out and buy it. Does the same thing happen on TikTok and Instagram? Like, I'm just completely out of the loop, right? Like, I'm YouTube and that's it. So I don't really know. It's just a curious side note. I've just never really gotten a straight answer, but publishers really like it. I think some of them are more popular than, you know, half of the board game, you know, YouTube and other people things. I'm done talking. Phantom Ink. Anyway, check it out. Then we're talking about Valerius here. Almost $70,000 as well. A game I had never heard of before this week. And it's got a lot of money. But what it is it's kind of like a little bit of paper, scissors, rock war, if you will. Because essentially what you're doing is you've got these cards that you're just laying down 3 at a time. They're going to have plus values in them. And you take one of the either peace, defend, or war cards as the action that you're taking. And you flip them over simultaneously. If you choose war, you like sum total up your card character bonuses that you laid down. And then you roll a 2d6s and you go against whoever else did war, because then you get to steal theirs. But your bonus from the cards you laid down is just the modifier to that D6 double roll. So that's kind of all I get from this without watching a video. You're going to get some exclusivity stuff here. Gem pouching, dice, mystery cards. I don't know. There must be more to it than that in terms of the alien cards, the mission cards, the elite alien cards, the playmats, all of the other stuff. But I'll be honest with you, I don't really quite understand what. This allows you to play with an extra player, new diplomacy type, friend or foe, so a new little thing that you can do here. The missions that you're slowly trying to achieve based on what you're gathering and going across. But I don't get the vibe of why I need that. Again, you can add another player there with that one. New missions again in a different way. So gathering some sort of resources. I wouldn't mind a little bit more information on the page of like what's it actually doing, right? Because you have gatherers that are going to be getting you resources, I guess, and the mercenaries. So that must be how you're actually recruiting them. But then again, you, like it says, you pick up your diplomacy card, you get peace, but you're vulnerable to attack. Defend, you have to pay, but you're going to be protected, or war, but you have to battle. And so again, the flip, the dice roll, the modifier, winning, points, get to 21. Mission cards are there somewhere in between. Valuable blueprints in order to win as well, to advance your civ. The resources that you're going to be gathering along the way to complete those mission cards. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So gather, set collect, and hopefully occasionally battle. But it's got $70,000 for a game that I hadn't heard of, and a bunch of previews you can check out there as well. Well, one review actually, and a little bit of stretch goals. So this one wasn't even on my radar. Be nice to maybe play with the kids, I think. I think that's about the level I'd be looking at it. I don't know if it has interest for me from other side of things, but I mean, 70 grand is really good. So I give them kudos, and they put out something that people like. So there you go. Then we're talking wrestling cubes. Essentially what you're doing is you're just pushing these blocks across in either orthogonally as well as diagonally lines. And you'll notice that each of these pieces, if you're paying very careful attention here to the actual picture, has little pieces on each side. And so when you hit on that side, you remove that side of that piece, and then that like cube, like I think can't move in that direction. And so essentially what you're trying to do is disable everyone else's cubes, or your opponent's cubes, I mean, because it's a 2-player game, until they just can't move any of their cubes at all. And if you get to the other person's side, well, then it turns around and you just start off in this sort of arrangement. And there's sliding rules, and then there's pushing rules about how many can push others and who can't, and then when you hit them and how they attack, and then winning, as it says, right? You can't move any of your cubes, well, you lose. So that's it. Again, hollow arrows there, 12 cubes that you're going to be doing on total, and a neoprene mat. So again, a little light abstract here. Thought I'd cover it because I came across it. Wrestling cubes. Next up, Pirate Republic, African Gambit, a standalone revision of a 2017 game, now 200% funded. I was going to say a combination there of 28,000 and then 200% funded, all kind of went through my head at the same time. It's the watermelon lime. It has a weird aftertaste. I'm not a big fan of it. I much prefer black raspberry or black cherry. But this is, as it says, a second edition, new features, West African adventures, and no one expects the, not Spanish Inquisition here on this one, but Portuguese adversaries, right? Streamline combat, gather your crew. It's going to be $100 or $80 depending on which version you want. And you have basically, I think, like 7 different actions you're going to be taking on a turn-by-turn basis. You're drawing this in a deck-building style of manner with elite pirates and, you know, your captains, as well as just sort of regular crew. And again, right, look at that, 7 actions. It's like he looked at this page and remembered a little bit. Sailing, scouting, completing, combat, haven, or upgrading your deck as you're going along. And it's going to give you a little bit of the thematic deck building with an open world adventure sandbox style at the same time. You can campaign mode, they say, but it's not going to be necessarily needed. You can do one-off scenarios, or you can play in, play out with a campaign, so you don't have to have the same people there every time. Accomplishments that you're going to be doing as you go along, how you're going to be managing those resources in addition. And then, well, your ship determining, again, how far you can go, the crew, influence, and power, how far you can move, the accomplishments that you need to achieve in the first place with bonuses that you're going to be getting along the way. Again, the rulebook, I have to say, though, buyer beware, 43-page rulebook with extensive amount of information here. So you really have to know this is going to be for you, because even though it's deck building open world, it's going to be action, a lot of upkeep and round structure that you're going to be having to take care of, even though the actions themselves are relatively straightforward. So how to play, overviews, all right there. You can check it out as well. I would like to see a little bit more on the page as a whole, but I mean, it's enough of a known quantity from 2017 that you check out the rulebook, you check over on Board Game Geek and see whether or not this one's right for you. So there you go. So crabs in a bucket, that's a thing, right? Shrimpocalypse. $6,800 already raised. If it's $5,000, you're getting a expansion of this party-friendly sort of Uno-esque vibe, only with crabs as your Joker wild cards, essentially. The problem is there's nothing on the page really to actually tell you how to play this game. So if you really want to know, you go over to Board Game Geek like I just did, and you've got like your 52 card-ish setup with like your 4 suits and your Joker crabs, which just basically are some take that when you play them, because you're going to have basically cards that you're just going to be getting rid of, laying into a discard pile. You're basically just laying them on the suit or the number that matches Uno, but you can also like discard cards of a higher value if it's out there as well. But if like a face card, a, you know, Jack, Queen, Kinger's on there, well then you can't play like the Joker crabs. But then there's like this one crab that you just can't play at all, so you have to figure out how to manipulate things to give it to someone else or lose it without playing it. Right, and you're getting more of this stuff with the Joker cards and the shrimp cards and the bunny cards with this one. So do you want some extras? There you go. But that's about it. There's one video on the page, and that's all the information you're going to get on this one. And so somehow, again, it has almost $7,000, so there you go. Then we have BubbleNet at 50% of its funding goal right now, and essentially it's mimicking real-life use of bubbles and sound in the water to allow whales to herd and then eat fish. And so what you're doing is you're slowly moving these air bubbles around the outside from the back to the front, herding these fish towards the middle. You're going to be laying down pod mates, other whales, in order to either herd them or hold them to help you push them inwards as you're going along. It says 10 minutes to play. It's a light sort of abstract solo style game, and a bunch of quotes down here, playtester feedback, and even a few previews down here as well. So long page and a solo game. It's about 50% of the way funded, so we'll see if it succeeds. So I totally had deja vu with this because I actually covered this previously when it failed to fund. Pengy Pals, Antarctica's Greatest Heroes, a cooperative, sort of a nice diced card-driven gameplay here, where you have a Dice Throne-esque vibe where you're gathering fish through the use of resources with your asymmetric penguins in order to play their abilities and then have enemy reactions as you're trying to defeat them as you go along. Well, I mean, it's dice-based combat, and you get card aspects in order to mitigate or to give you advantages as you go against, well, the 3 bosses that you can kind of see here. By the way, Omega right there looks kind of cool. It looks like a shark with just anything else going on either way. I like the art. So enemy decks that are going to be going along, 86 cards, fish meeples, and everything else. So this is already almost funded. They only got 50% funding last time, so it's really kind of cool that they're doing that much better this time around. So You roll your dice, you don't re-roll them, and so you're going to be utilizing those to take 2 actions each, allowing you to basically have support actions and main actions that match the symbols that you can allocate. Then, as you allocate them and use your abilities, the bosses are going to respond doing damage or other things in turn. Discarding cards allows you to then gain the fish that are allowing you to do the actions or the card play in the first place in order to get some, well, better aspects and upgrades as you would expect. Then you have to eat. If you can't eat, you're going to take damage. Regroup, redo, reroll. Rulebook's right there. You're just getting it. They say, okay, they're doing premium. They're just, not doing any upgrades. They've already got it out in the first place, designed from that aspect. A lot of videos from the first time around as well. So again, is this your vibe? Animal, planet, Earth. It's the biggest trend of the year. And you know what? It's good to see that they're probably going to fund, and maybe they'll be even funded by the time you view this. So go check them out. Then last up this week, we have Artefacts. Now this is a relaunch, $25,000 and $43,000. And I'll be honest with you, this is probably one of the heaviest games I've seen on crowdfunding in a long time. This is a innovative worker placement game that they say that you are going to be taking up to 14 different modules or mini expansions and combining them all together. So like 7 character modules and 7 like invention type modules that you can just go ahead and mix, mash, and however you want. 3 of them being essential. 40+ page rule book of very detailed detail of how this is going to go. I don't really get a great sense of the flow, the dynamics. You can move your tokens around. You can move other people's tokens with yours, but you can't necessarily play on your own tokens. And again, there's just a ton of stuff going on here. If we skip down here, you can kind of see, there's articles, there are, a couple of videos on how to play down below. Rulebook is on here. The modularity, they say, make it short and simple or add a bunch up to however long that you want to be. These are all the modules that you're going to have available to you. It's set up like a large tutorial, but it's a 40+ page tutorial. If I have to read a 40+ page tutorial, that's a lot. And so I just worry about scope with this, right? Dice with all possibilities. Everything else is going to fine tune your machine. I just don't have a clue. There's a ton, absolute metric ton, more than I've seen going on in almost anything here as well. So all of these things, again, this is a lot of jargon. Fortify your matrix fluid, use your geodes, improve your geodes to find, and I don't say that in a bad way, but I say that as you have to know what that actually means. And so if you're looking at this just off the surface and you're saying, okay, well, I don't understand any of the terminology you're using, that'd be my biggest concern here as a whole. Because you may be doing things, but again, I have no idea what that's going to flow. I have no idea what the game plan is. I have no idea what the end game is. I have no idea what the achievements are. How is this, that different with all of the word usage there, but just not a lot of the, what's actually going on. So we see GIFs all the time on crowdfunding, but it has to be useful. And that's my one concern is I have no idea after looking at this page, it's heavy, it's Eurogame, there's 14 modules, but you're really going to have to look at a lot of the details of the 40+ page and a couple of those videos down there to get any better sense of the actual game flow. So anyway, it's over 50% of the way funded. We'll see where it goes. Artifacts. That is the roundup this week. That's why I do this though, right? Because it's fun to do it like last week when we get the Grim Covens and the 7 Citadels and all the big ones, the mythic battles, right? But why I did this and why I do this on a weekly basis is because I like talking about all of them. It'd be really easy to take a week off or 2 weeks off when nothing big is launching and then no. Every week-ish. I try. I've been doing this for 3+ years, this roundup. So, you know what? I've read a lot of rules. I've looked at a lot of crowdfunding pages and more to come. So news video, well, we'll see whether or not it comes out Saturday or Sunday this weekend. Just depends. So lots of family stuff. Lots and lots of family stuff. Kids are on vacation. Had soccer camp this week, tennis camp next week, family gathering out of town over the weekend. It's just going to be tons and tons of stuff. And so hopefully, beginning of the week, I'll maybe have something brief, smattering overview impressions of, I don't know why I did this motion, but Seventh Citadel. And then also sometime next week, probably sitting right here. Actually, you didn't watch that video of Arcs, but I also talked about the 2 upcoming from Bitewing in that one as well, Ecor and Iliad. So that will probably be coming out next week as well too. So what else? I don't know. Got a bunch of other review stuff to handle. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I was just playing Distilled. I was just playing Skytier Horde Monoliths. So some thoughts on that in some time in the near future. Trying to pick up a few games on the secondary market too right now. So spoilers for an upcoming video of where my wish list is at for maybe the end of June. Slay the Spire eventually. I'm not going to FOMO though. Not going to do it. Then also probably I'm looking at the latest Exceed, the Guilty Gear Exceed that I covered and previewed for level 99 games. And then also, what else was I just thinking of? What was the other one? I don't know. Screw it. I was looking at something else. Oh, the Exceed Street Fighters. Still haven't been able to find a copy of Harmonies. Evenfall with that expansion announcement. Got to get my hands on that at some point too. So, we'll see. Too much stuff, not enough time. It's good. It's good though. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend. Please. Not an ask. A request. Go have a good weekend. Peace out. See you around.